Let's start with second part of class 11 first chapter, what is psychology. Everyone has models of other people stored in our brain. What people do, why people do, we all have theories and almost everyone acts as psychologist. It takes years of study and research to practice a degree of objectivity, expertise and sensitivity to each situation. That's the difference between common sense and professional outlook to others' motives. Common sense is based on explanation after behavior occurs. Hindsight bias is the tendency of people to assume that they knew outcome of any event. Psychology as a science looks for pattern of behavior which can be predicted and not explained after behavior occurs. Experimentation performed by Carol Dweck in 1975 took two groups of students trained for 25 days in solving math problems. The first group was provided with easy problems and second had mix of easy and difficult problems. Whenever children faced difficult problems, she persuaded them not to give up and keep trying. After training period was over, a new set of math problems were given to two groups. Result shows that continuous success made the first group quit faster than those who had experienced both success and failure. Common sense notions are not true. Easy to difficult problems in order increases the success rate but made them give up too early. Psychological studies have shown that practice can improve performance in the presence of audience. Psychologists examine propositions based on data systematically. There are different approaches in history of modern psychology. Formal beginning of modern psychology is traced back in 1879 by Wilhelm Wundt in Leipzig, Germany. He was interested in conscious experience and structures of the mind. A procedure in which subjects in psychological experiments were asked to describe details of their mental processes is known as introspection. It was considered less scientific and couldn't be verified. An American psychologist, William James, developed functionalism to study what is mind and how behavior functions. Consciousness in mental processes interact with environment form the core of psychology. John Dewey was an educational reformer and a progressive educator. He believed that individuals learn and grow as a result of experiences and interaction with the world. In earlier 20th century, Max Wertheimer, Kurt Kafka and Wolfgang Kohler founded Gestalt psychology. It was a reaction to structuralism. It focused on the organization of perceptual experiences. What we experience is more than input received from the environment. It is holistic as well as integral approach. Around 1910, John Watson rejected the ideas of mind and consciousness. He was influenced by Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning and Skinner's operant conditioning experiments. He was also called father of behaviorism. According to him, behavior is public, which is observable and verifiable. An Australian neurologist, Sigmund Freud, viewed human behavior as a dynamic manifestation of unconscious desire and conflicts. So he founded psychoanalysis as a system to understand and cure psychological disorders. Humanistic perspectives argued that emphasis on behavior undermined human freedom and dignity. They shunned mechanistic view of human nature. It was more positivistic and emphasized on free will. Human beings strive to grow and unfold inner potential. Not one psychological approach is complete in itself, so there are strengths and weaknesses in each approach. That's why multiple perspectives emerged. Some interesting landmarks in evolution are Abraham Maslow's motivation and personality, Carl Rogers' client-centered therapy, Konrad Lorenz and Nico Tinbergen worked on specific animal behavior patterns that emerge without any prior learning. Hubel Wiesel researched on vision cells. Herbert Simon worked on decision making. Roger Sperry conducted split brain research. Daniel Kahneman researched on human judgment and decision making under uncertainty. Thomas Schelling worked on game theory to understand economic behavior. Gestalt and structuralist approach combine to the development of cognitive perspective. It involves thinking, understanding, memorizing, and problem solving. Modern cognitive views human beings construct their minds through exploration into physical and social world of constructivism. For example, Piaget's cognitive development theory and Vygotsky's social cultural theory. Foundation of psychological thinking in India was laid in Vedas and Upanishads. The Indian philosophical tradition is rich in focus to mental processes of human consciousness, mind and body relations, and reflections of self. Indian psychology began in Department of Philosophy at Calcutta University. In 1915, the first psychological laboratory was established. In 1916, Department of Psychology, and in 1938, Department of Applied Psychology started. Dr. Narendranath Sen Gupta earned PhD and considered as father of Indian psychology. Professor Girindra Shekhar Bose was in earlier 20th century the Indian psychoanalyst, also the first president of Indian Psychoanalytic Society. Modern psychology has grown up as a strong discipline in India in about 70 universities, including Mysore, Patna, Utkal University of Bhubaneswar, and Allahabad. Durganand Sinha published Psychology in a Third World Country, The Indian Experience in 1986, which traces four phases of India. First phase was till independence, which emphasizes experimental, psychoanalytic, and psychological testing reflected from Western countries. The second phase till 1960 has expansion of different branches of psychology and desire by Indian psychologists to have Indian identity. In third phase, they became focused on addressing problems of Indian society and realized Western psychology limitations. Fourth phase was indigenization, which started late in 1970s. It was rooted in our own socio-cultural context. Psychology in India is applied in diverse professional areas like hospitals, sports, and IT industries. Cognitive psychology investigates mental processes in acquisition, storage, manipulation, and transformation of information from environment. It collaborates with neuroscientists and computer scientists. Biological psychology. It studies relation between behavior with respect to brain, nervous system, immunity, and genetics. Neuropsychology study the role of neurotransmitters and chemical substances. Developmental psychology studies different stages over lifespan and linked to psychological characteristics such as intelligence, cognition, emotion, temperament, and morality. Social psychology survey attitudes, conformity and obedience in social environment. Cultural psychology look into role of culture in understanding behavior. Environmental psychology studies impact of physical factors like temperature, pollution, natural disaster on human behavior. They study workplace health, interpersonal relation, community resources, and population explosion on human behavior. Stress, anxiety, ways of coping are studied under health psychology. Disorders like clinical depression, anxiety, they are dealt by clinical psychologists. They study causes, treatment, prevention with intensive training. A psychiatrist has a medical degree with years of specialized training in psychological disorders. They can give medications or electric shock therapy. Counseling psychology work with students, advising them about personal problems and career guidance. Industrial or organizational psychology. It deals with workers' organization, training of employees, adopting new management structure and selection of employees. Educational psychologists develop instructional methods and materials to train people in education and work settings. School psychology promotes intellectual, social, and emotional development of children, including with special needs. Sports psychology enhances motivation and performance. These interdisciplinary applications of psychology has led to the emergence of varied field of interest.